There comes a moment in life when you stop chasing more and start searching for meaning. After 60, the pace of the world no longer matches the rhythm of your spirit. You begin to realize that time is not infinite, that every moment carries weight, and that peace is worth more than possessions. But the truth is, peace does not come from what you gain. It comes from what you finally release. There are things you've been carrying for decades that no longer belong to you. Some of them were useful once. They helped you survive, succeed, or belong. But now they are quietly stealing your energy. The strength of the later years is not about holding on. It's about letting go with wisdom, grace, and awareness. The first truth to release is the illusion of unfinished success. Many people spend their lives measuring their worth through accomplishments, titles, and recognition. Yet after 60, success takes on a new meaning. It's no longer about being ahead, it's about being at peace. The world will always try to define success by comparison, but real fulfillment comes from alignment. Ask yourself, do I wake up calm? Do I move through my day with purpose, not pressure? If you can answer yes, you have succeeded. Let go of the belief that you needed to be more than what you became. You have already lived 1,000 moments of quiet victory, moments where you chose kindness over ego, patience over reaction, understanding over pride. Those victories may not have been seen, but they shaped your spirit more than any title ever could. The second truth to release is the burden of perfection. For too long, you've probably carried the idea that you had to live without mistakes, that every choice had to be right, that your life needed to unfold smoothly. But life never promised perfection. It promised experience. Every error, every detour, every regret has taught you something that wisdom could not learn from success alone. After 60, perfection no longer matters, authenticity does. There's freedom in saying, I am still learning. You do not have to fix every past mistake, because growth doesn't erase the past, it transforms your relationship with it. Let the old self, judgment, fall away. When you stop punishing yourself for what you didn't know then, you open space for peace to enter now. The third truth to let go of is the need for approval. When you are young, you build your identity through the eyes of others, parents, colleagues, friends, society. But as you age, you realize that many of those expectations were never truly yours. Living for validation becomes exhausting because no amount of approval can replace the satisfaction of being true to yourself. At this stage of life, you don't need applause. You need alignment. You don't need everyone to understand you. You only need to understand yourself. Approval is temporary, but authenticity is eternal. So release the invisible weight of trying to please. The opinions of others will change with time, but the peace that comes from self-acceptance will never fade. The fourth truth to release is the attachment to control. The older you become, the more you realize how little control you ever truly had. Life moves with its own intelligence. It gives, it takes, it transforms. Trying to force it to obey your timeline only creates frustration. Peace arrives when you surrender to the rhythm of what is. You cannot control how others behave, how the world changes, or how quickly time passes. But you can control how you respond, how you breathe, how you choose to experience each moment. Acceptance is not weakness, it's maturity. It's saying, I don't need to fight the flow of life, I can learn to move with it. When you release control, you don't lose power, you gain clarity. You begin to see life as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. And in that clarity, peace begins to bloom effortlessly. The fifth truth to let go of is the attachment to youth. Society glorifies youth as the only season of vitality and beauty, but this is one of the greatest lies ever told. Age does not diminish value, it deepens it. The face changes, the body slows, but the spirit becomes sharper, calmer, and more awake. Let go of the fear of aging. It is not a decline, but a refinement. Every line on your face is a story of resilience, every gray hair a mark of survival, every scar a memory of strength. When you stop comparing yourself to the past version of who you were, you make peace with the gift of who you've become. Youth teaches movement, age teaches meaning, and there is a beauty in wisdom that no mirror can capture. The sixth truth to release is the habit of holding on to pain. Emotional wounds from the past can live quietly for decades. They hide beneath pride, beneath busyness, beneath the stories you tell yourself. But if you look closely, you'll see that every unhealed pain still shapes your reactions. Letting go of pain doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to suffer twice. Forgiveness is not for the one who hurt you. It's for the one who carries the hurt. The moment you forgive, you take back your energy. The pain may have been real, but it doesn't deserve your present. The past cannot be rewritten, but the meaning you give it can be transformed. Choose to see your pain as your teacher, not your enemy. Every hurt you've endured taught you strength, patience, and empathy, and these qualities are far more valuable than resentment. As you move beyond 60, life begins to whisper a quieter kind of wisdom. It tells you that peace is not found in the future. It's found in the simplicity of this moment. When you stop clinging to what you can't change, you start feeling the beauty of what's still here. The softness of a morning breeze, the sound of laughter, the taste of tea, the warmth of a memory. Life after 60 is not an ending, it's a refining. You are not becoming less, you are becoming pure. Everything unnecessary begins to fall away, leaving only what's essential: clarity, kindness, and truth. Letting go is not easy. It feels like loss at first. But if you stay patient, you'll realize it's not loss, it's space. Space for new understanding, for calmness, for a deeper connection with yourself. The things you let go of were never truly yours to begin with. They were lessons. The mind fears release because it believes it will be empty afterward. But in truth, when you release, you are filled with freedom. The less you carry, the lighter your spirit moves through the world. Life beyond 60 is not about chasing what's next. It's about embracing what's now. The laughter that comes softly, the wisdom that speaks quietly, the love that doesn't need words. When you look back, you'll see that every challenge was preparing you for this serenity. Every heartbreak refined your understanding. Every disappointment deepened your patience. Every ending shaped your appreciation of beginnings. So as you walk forward, remember, the art of living well is not about adding more, but about removing what blocks your peace. Let go of the illusions of success, the weight of perfection, the hunger for approval, the illusion of control, the fear of aging, and the pain of the past. Once these fall away, what remains is pure awareness, a calm strength that doesn't seek to prove anything. The real journey after 60 is not about running faster, it's about walking lighter. When you stop carrying unnecessary burdens, you finally have space to hold what matters: love, clarity, wisdom, and peace. That is how you begin to live not just longer, but deeper, because true life is not measured by years, it's measured by presence, and presence begins the moment you decide to let go. You cannot move into peace while dragging the weight of your past. The things you hold on to, even silently, even when you pretend they no longer matter, become invisible chains that pull you back every time you try to rise. Every memory that still carries emotional noise, every regret that still whispers what you could have done differently, and every person you haven't yet forgiven, these all stay alive inside you. They might not speak loudly, but they shape the way you think, react, and move. The weight of what was will always compete with the lightness of what could be. Peace does not arrive when you finish fixing your past. It arrives the moment you stop letting your past dictate the direction of your present. The past is not your home anymore. It was the place where you learned, where you fell, and where you grew, but it is not where you are meant to live. Too many people believe that by constantly revisiting their old stories, they can somehow change their ending. But the truth is, each time you return to the past, you bring back fragments of pain that no longer belong in your new chapter. You cannot start a new sentence if you keep reading the same paragraph. Peace requires courage, the courage to accept that what's done is done, that not everything will make sense, and that some wounds may never fully close, but they no longer need to. Understanding this is freedom. Letting go does not mean you erase the memory. It means you release the emotional grip it has over you. It's the silent understanding that your past self did the best it could with what it knew at the time. Forgiveness in this sense is not about someone else. It's an act of releasing yourself from emotional captivity. It's recognizing that every mistake, every failure, every heartbreak was a teacher disguised as pain. Once you see that, you stop running from it. You simply bow to it and move forward. When you finally let go, you begin to notice something subtle but powerful happening within you. Your breathing feels lighter. Your thoughts become quieter. Your energy no longer flows toward what you cannot change, but toward what you can create. You stop rehearsing old conversations in your head. You stop seeking explanations from people who no longer deserve your presence. You stop reopening emotional wounds just to see if they still hurt. You begin to trust that the lessons are already woven into your being. You don't need to keep holding on to the pain to remember the wisdom. Sometimes we hold on because we think it honors what we lost. We think that if we let go, it means we no longer care, but the truth is the opposite. When you release something, you honor what it taught you without letting it imprison your present. You can still carry love, gratitude, and memory without carrying pain. That is the difference between attachment and understanding. One drains you, the other frees you. The act of release is not an emotional weakness. It is emotional maturity. You might think letting go is a single event, but it is not. It's a daily practice. Every morning you decide what energy you carry into your day. You notice the thoughts that try to drag you backward. You become aware of the patterns that keep repeating. Slowly, you begin to interrupt them. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you weaken the control of your past over your present. Every breath of mindfulness becomes an act of liberation. Peace is not found in the absence of memories. It's found in your ability to no longer be ruled by them. True inner peace is not built on denial, but on understanding. It's built on the quiet wisdom that everything has its time, and some seasons are meant to end. People, moments, and experiences enter your life to awaken something within you. Once that lesson is complete, holding on to the experience no longer brings growth. It only brings weight. That weight eventually becomes fatigue, emotional clutter, and confusion about who you are becoming. When you let go, you stop trying to prove anything. You stop explaining your journey to people who never walked it. You stop measuring your worth by what you used to have or who you used to be. The person you were 5 years ago, or even yesterday, is not the one who needs to keep walking forward. You are constantly transforming. Every cell, every thought, every perception evolves with time. To grow, you must create emotional space for new experiences, and that can only happen when you release what no longer belongs. Freedom doesn't mean you have nothing left. It means nothing has you trapped. It is the quiet strength of knowing that your peace is not dependent on external conditions. It is built within through discipline, awareness, and detachment. You start to realize that every ending was secretly preparing you for something more aligned. You stop resisting change because you understand that change is not destruction. It's renewal. Letting go is an art. It requires patience, honesty, and deep self-awareness. You begin to observe your emotions without letting them define you. You learn to say, This no longer serves me, and not with anger, but with gratitude. You recognize that holding on to old pain only keeps you standing in the same emotional spot. When you learn to release, you also learn to trust life again. You start to flow instead of control, and in that flow, you rediscover peace. When freedom enters, it doesn't shout. It arrives quietly, like a calm wind. You'll know you've released something when your mind stops returning to it without effort. You'll notice it when your heart feels light, even when memories arise. The world will not change when you let go, but your perception of it will. You will see beauty where there was once bitterness. You will find compassion where there was once judgment. You will feel power where there was once fear. And perhaps the most beautiful part of letting go is realizing that peace was never something you needed to find. It was something you had to uncover. It was always beneath the noise, beneath the attachments, beneath the endless what-ifs. The moment you stop gripping the past, peace surfaces naturally. It doesn't have to be built, it simply needs to be allowed. So, when you finally release, not because you gave up, but because you understood, you will notice a profound stillness inside. That stillness is not emptiness, it is space. Space for joy, for clarity, for new beginnings. It is the space where life breathes freely again. It is the moment when you realize you are no longer being pulled backward by invisible strings. You are moving forward, lighter, freer, and fully awake. Peace is not an accident. It is the outcome of conscious release. You cannot receive the present while your hands are full of the past. So loosen your grip. Breathe. Let life unfold without dragging what is already complete. The past does not need you anymore, but your future does, and it is waiting for the lighter version of you, the one who finally chose peace over pain. Growth in the later years of life is not about adding more experiences, it's about subtracting what no longer serves your inner calm. It's about realizing that maturity does not always mean accumulation. It often means refinement. At a certain point in life, you begin to understand that peace doesn't come from what you own, what you achieve, or who praises you. It comes from the things you learn to release, the noise, the rush, the endless comparisons, and the unnecessary battles that once seemed so important. You begin to see that much of what you thought mattered was never truly yours to keep. What belongs to you will stay without you chasing it. What doesn't will fall away, no matter how tightly you try to hold on. With age comes the awareness that energy is precious. You no longer have the desire to spend your days proving your worth to those who cannot see it. You no longer wish to argue to defend your perspective in conversations that have no depth. You start to see that silence speaks more truth than most words ever will. Letting go, then, becomes not an act of loss, but an act of wisdom. It's the recognition that by clearing what drains you, you make space for what nourishes you. Every time you release something unnecessary, you lighten the weight of your spirit and sharpen the focus of your mind. In your earlier years, you were taught to collect degrees, possessions, achievements, connections. But life, in its quiet way, will teach you the beauty of release. You begin to understand that not every relationship deserves a lifelong space. Not every goal is worth the price of your inner peace, and not every battle needs to be fought. Growth means knowing when to stop pouring energy into things that no longer grow you. You don't need to burn bridges, but you must stop building them in places that lead you nowhere. There is power in simplification. The more you subtract, the more clearly you see. You notice how much energy you wasted on things that did not truly matter. You realize that the endless search for validation was only a symptom of a restless mind. You see that the external achievements you once chased cannot fill the quiet spaces of your heart. What you used to call ambition sometimes was only distraction. True growth is when you no longer run from stillness, when you no longer confuse busyness with purpose. As you enter the later stages of life, you begin to appreciate the art of gentle detachment. You learn to observe life without trying to control every outcome. You no longer demand perfection from yourself or others. You start to understand that everyone is walking their own path, learning through their own mistakes. This realization frees you from unnecessary expectations. You stop holding grudges because you see how heavy they are to carry. You stop trying to change people because you finally accept that understanding is not forced, it is chosen. Living wisely is learning to hold what's essential with care and to let go of everything else with grace. You begin to guard your peace as something sacred. You become careful about what you allow into your space, who you spend your time with, and what kind of energy you absorb. You no longer allow gossip, drama, or negativity to have a seat at your table. You begin to recognize that peace is fragile when surrounded by chaos, and protecting it requires discipline. The people who drain your energy are no longer your responsibility. You can love them from a distance without guilt, because peace is not selfish. It is necessary. When you learn to release, you also rediscover joy in simplicity. You start finding contentment in ordinary moments, a morning walk, a quiet meal, a deep conversation. You realize that happiness was never in having more, but in needing less. You learn to appreciate the rhythm of nature, the comfort of routine, and the clarity that comes from solitude. These are not signs of isolation. They are signs of harmony. Letting go also means forgiving yourself. You stop replaying the mistakes of your past. You stop holding yourself hostage to decisions you made when you didn't know better. Regret is only useful when it becomes a lesson. Beyond that, it becomes a prison. Growth means allowing yourself to be human, to have failed, to have misunderstood, to have fallen, and to rise without resentment. The lessons of life often arrive disguised as pain, but once you extract their wisdom, the pain no longer controls you. It simply becomes a teacher you can thank and release. There is also beauty in not knowing what's next. In your youth, uncertainty feels terrifying because you crave control. But as you grow, you realize that uncertainty is not chaos, it's potential. It's the space where new experiences are born, where your creativity breathes. When you let go of the need to predict, you begin to trust, and when you trust, life begins to unfold with ease. You move with it instead of against it. That flow is what real wisdom feels like. It's quiet, steady, and deeply freeing. True wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. It's found in restraint, in patience, in choosing peace over reaction. You start to notice how unnecessary most conflicts are. You begin to understand that being right is not as valuable as being kind. You realize that you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to, that some truths are better kept in silence and some battles are best left unfought. This is not weakness, it's awareness. You start to act not from emotion but from understanding. When you live this way, you begin to feel light, not because life has become easier, but because you've stopped carrying what isn't yours. You stop being the keeper of everyone's problems, the fixer of everyone's chaos. You learn to listen without absorbing, to care without drowning, to love without losing yourself. This balance takes years to master, but once you find it, you realize that nothing external can disturb your inner stillness unless you give it permission. Eventually, you understand that the purpose of life is not to have everything, but to understand everything you have. Growth, in its purest form, is about awareness. It's about recognizing what feeds your soul and what drains it, what deserves your time and what does not. Every moment of awareness allows you to reclaim your energy and redirect it towards something that aligns with who you truly are. When you start to live this way, life feels lighter, more spacious. You no longer rush to chase happiness. It quietly arrives. You begin to appreciate the rhythm of your days, even the quiet ones. You stop needing others to approve your journey. You understand that peace is not a destination, but a daily choice, built moment by moment through what you allow, what you accept, and what you release. The art of living wisely is not found in perfection, but in awareness. It's knowing that life will always bring both joy and pain, gain and loss, light and shadow. But it's also knowing that you get to decide what stays within you. You get to choose which emotions to feed, which thoughts to entertain, and which memories to release. That choice is your power. And when you finally learn to hold only what brings peace and release everything else with grace, you don't just grow older, you grow free.